It's one of those things. It's like, I think men think when you're asking about their lives, like, okay, what does he want? And I think we've been jaded that way too, because like Natalie's friends will call her up just to shoot the shit. Like, but we don't always do that.
We don't. Welcome back, everybody. This is the DC Talks podcast. My main man, DC, in the building.
What's up, buddy?
How you doing?
All right.
You're blessed?
I'm always blessed.
Yeah, always
I'm
blessed.
with you, man. It's always good to see your smiley
good to
face.
see you, man. You too. It was good vibes, man.
Glad I don't see your chest hair today.
It's covered up. The fans were making noise about that. I'm provoked. I'm provoked, man. I'm provoked.
Are you
baby.
triggered?
I was a little bit triggered because, I've been told like my chest hair, like, girls like it, so to hear a couple of the ladies on your social, they're not feeling it. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
You do you. I'm all right with that.
I'm going to do me, man. I want to do my part, play host, and we're going to have a good show.
Attaboy.
As usual.
And who are you?
I'm Agent 00.
You haven't said it in a while.
I was like, let me see if he notices. Let me see if you did notice. So, guys, this is Agent 00, Owen Osende, co-host of the DC Talks podcast. And today, we're going to talk about men stuff, man. I'm talking about being a man, bro. DC.
Attaboy.
You a man?
I'd hope so.
Yeah.
God.
What do you identify as?
Oh, don't even start with that shit with me, man. Yeah, of course I'm a man.
Of course you're a man.
I'm a man.
Are you, do you find it hard to be vulnerable as a dude?
Yeah,
You
of
do?
course. Much less lately. I find that the podcast and my videos give me an outlet and let other people know it's okay to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
But growing up, not a chance.
No
You know what I
chance,
mean?
eh?
We were told as young kids, it's always good to be the ladies' man, almost like promiscuous. Can't show them too much emotion. You got to treat them like the way they treated them. And it's like, like there was no such thing. Real men don't cry and all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of the culture we kind of grew up in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things have changed dramatically now. Well, I think the pendulum swung in some people's situations a little too far the other way. But yeah, it's so somebody in my generation, like I'm 45, it's sometimes harder to come and talk and let things out and be vulnerable. Vulnerable in front of your friends, vulnerable in front of your spouse, vulnerable in front of your kids. It's not always an easy task. Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah. So what does it mean to be masculine to you?
I think it's owning who you are.
Yeah.
It's like taking care of your family, taking care of your kids, making sure everything's like asking for help when you need it. Like there's nothing wrong for asking help. Say, hey, like nothing wrong with that. I think that's part of it. And if there are sometimes being vulnerable, like crying, but showing care and emotion does not make you less masculine. I think your attributes, the way that you show and you care for everybody, but I think masculine is like being strong.
Yeah.
It could be strong in character. It could be that too, but just because you cry doesn't mean you're less strong in character. I've cried with you before.
You have.
Did that make me less masculine? I don't think so.
No, not at all. It's just like now when men think about being men, there's so much societal expectations that are on you that you cannot show any form of weakness. So what is weakness? One thing is not crying or showing any emotion, being vulnerable and actually saying, you know what, I'm hurt. I feel some type of way about this. I did not feel good about that. And actually expressing that to, let's say, even another man. A lot of guys will get backlash and be told that you're acting like a little bee. You're acting like you're moving like a wussy. You're acting sus. So when you hear this from like a very young age, it really forms your worldview of like the way you're supposed to act. Then you grow up and then you have all these hurt dudes who grew up with not having that influence and telling them it's okay to be feeling like that. It's okay to showcase that you're vulnerable.
And what happens to those people that can't
do that?
They can't expose like their emotions. They're the ones that act out and
it becomes chaotic,
violent. They're the ones like, there's always a history of people that have committed heinous crimes.
Yeah.
It doesn't just manifest out of the blue. A lot of that too is like, I think a lot of that is, emotional stuff, like the suicides and stuff we've had. Like it's always higher in men.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that? Because we're told from a young age, it's like, you can't do that. You can't act that way. You can't say that.
Yeah.
Why not? Like, we don't have a lot of, we talked before, we don't have a lot of close relationships with guys just because it's seen as vulnerable. So they're like, we were told like, well, you can't have emotions. So it's hard for guys to connect because you're told like that's not something men do. Well, why is that? Right. So we're trying to kind of buck that culture. I'm trying to buck that and say, no, I have some close friends. I tell my friends, my guy friends too. I tell them, like I said this before, I tell people I love them. I tell people some interesting stuff. Like, I'm an open book.
You're an open book.
I don't like holding things back. I don't like people thinking where they stand with me. I want you to know where you stand with me.
You keep it real.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are there times where you felt you've been chastised for being vulnerable and showcasing? Because, you're like, you're tall, you have like the masculine physique, but there's this other side of you.
Yeah.
Maybe that didn't exist when you're younger, but how is that like growing up and actually growing into this person? Were you being told, David, were you emotional not emotional, but were you showing that vulnerable side back in the day? And how did it evolve over time for you to be the David Chinelli that we know today?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
You're vulnerable with your parents and stuff too in your households. Yeah, absolutely. My friends, maybe not so much. Like there was things they would say would hurt me and stuff to it. It just wouldn't talk about it. Like it's just not something like you never confronted your friends and said things. So even I remember being with a coach and stuff and him like doing me wrong and me not saying anything and just be like, just take it like a man. Take it. Just your play will always. I think it was up until more recent. I've always been. Let me back this up a little bit. But I've been emotional in a sense too. Like my mom would say too. Like I always need reassurance. Even today, like it's just one of those things. My nature is I want to be told I'm loved. I want to be told you're doing a good job.
Words of affirmation.
Right. I don't need you blowing smoke up my ass. I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate when people are just kind of like, don't do that.
You can tell it's not genuine.
Right. And sometimes I get embarrassed when people are like, when I get awards and stuff in public, I don't always need the public display stuff. It's kind of makes it sometimes embarrasses me, believe it or not. Like I'll fight them, but just in private, the people that are close to me, I need like reassurance. So that I was very heavy emotional as a person younger.
Yeah.
But I don't know if my friends ever knew that. And I didn't have a lot of close friends growing up.
And how did you seek those affirming words that helped you?
Your partner, your parents. Yeah. My mom did a lot of it too. She'd always laugh at me even when I was a kid. I'm like, Mom, can I have a hug? Do you love me? And she goes, why'd I have to tell you 100 times I love you? I'm like, I just like hearing it. And I say to my wife doesn't say like I make her in the morning say I love you. So I make her say like love you back. It's just like I need to hear it. Like I had this like I also want to know if I'm looking good. One of the reasons that sparked this conversation was I was kind of mad at Natalie. I was like, I got a nice suit designed for me. I don't know if we can jump ahead.
Go ahead.
And it just kind of like, sometimes I need reassurance of like, I've spent this money. It's a nice suit, nice tie. I tried it on the store. I took a picture of it, but I didn't try it on person. Right. So we're going to a wedding. It's the first time I've actually really tried it on with the shoes, the hair. So I turned to her and I said, do I look good? Right. And she's like, she turned to me and I don't know if she gets mad at me. She's like, we didn't say how I looked. I'm like we had an argument about it. I'm like, well, I wasn't demeaning that I don't say anything about you. I'm like, I just got a brand new suit. I'm like, I haven't seen like, is my hair at a place? Is my tie okay? Like, do I look good? Like, is everything good? She's like, well, I saw a picture of you yesterday. Of course it looked good. I'm like, you didn't say it first. She never told me it looked good. Yeah. And it's like, now it's like, we're going to the wedding. I'm like, if something's out of place, can I fix it? And that's what I meant. Right. And it was like, and we always get into this argument. Like, I'll get my hair cut. Like, I'll go from like this to almost nothing. And I'll come in, I'm like, do you like my haircut? She's like, well, it looks the same. I'm like, it doesn't look the same. But when the roles are reversed, she goes, well, you don't, and she'll always come back to me and say, well, you don't say my hair gets cut. But when your hair gets cut from here to here, I notice it. Like sometimes we don't. I also have to actively do that too. I'm actively trying to say, okay, I like that too. But this time it pissed me off, and I'm like, well, you never say that. And that's what sparked the conversation about why we should do this podcast. As men, we don't get affirmations from our spouses most of the time. Our girlfriends have too. It's funny, even some in my position, I remember going with Sam Hewitt. I think I told you the story where one of the other realtors met me in person. She's like, oh, you're a better looking person than you on videos. I started laughing and Sam was just joking. She's like, don't say that. You'll get a big head. And I'm like, no, actually, I actually don't hear that. So to me, it was genuine. It was just kind of what she said. It was cute, right? It was like, she's it's my buddy's mom too. It's like I play hockey with him, and I hadn't actually met her in person, even though we did a deal together. And it was just funny, and that kind of hit things home. And it's like, as men with masculine, I think if you have, I think I'm all decent looking enough. But it's not like people come up to us and say,
"You look sweet.
You're good looking." When I dress up, sometimes once in a while, like my sister-in-law, like she'll say something. She goes, "Oh, do you like this?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah." Like she one time said to me, she goes, "Oh, you always look good." I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." Like I didn't know that she thought that.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think people just assume that people give you compliments.
Exactly. And it seemed like you got it all together, like
I appreciate that.
They see, okay, you're successful, you're handsome, you got the family. They think this guy must know it. Why should I need to add more to it?
Right.
And take it. Oh, like I'm probably just blowing smoke up his ass. And that's what they think. But you're human at the end of the day, because those things are your status quo now. Like, can you get more, like what more success does it feel for you to feel like I feel extra better? You know what I'm saying? Because
I see what you're saying.
Once you experience like a utility,
I like to have zero mortgage and a million cars. No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. Diminishing returns pretty much over time. Like once you get the same thing.
Yeah, I get it. Well, that's the thing. We just want to feel like, as men, just assured in your own relationship with everybody, with your like, and just whether it's you'll brighten somebody's day just by giving them like a genuine compliment. Like I think we talk about too. It's like, hey, like there's like, even like I came in today, and then Isaac, who does our videos, stuff, he liked my shoes, and I was just like, hey man, nice shoes. I was like, that brightened my day. That's all. I'm like, hey, like you noticed, like,
little things.
You just noticed me, and that's it was just like, oh, like, and I put things together just kind of hoping somebody will notice, and some, like and sometimes you don't, right? But put an effort to do it. Like it's just nice to be recognized. And I'm not saying that women don't need that either. I just find that the friends stuff, I see the girlfriends, like when Natalie's friends are together and they compliment. Oh my God. But then there's also times I've noticed on the other side where when Natalie starts, like we started losing weight, so I think like her friends wouldn't say anything. So
say anything.
Say anything to her.
She's losing weight,
and then she turns when she come home. So this is like, so it kind of goes both ways too. I say it as men because we're men, we don't hear it too. But I hear from my wife too once in a while, and it's funny. She'll come in and she's like, it'll be funny how people don't say anything. But then we're at a funeral home the other day, and her mom's friend, it was just like, wow. Now she goes, you're like nothing's there. Like it was like, because she works her ass off, which is great. And it was nice to hear that compliment. I'm like, what? I haven't seen you. The last time I saw you was 60 pounds heavier. I'm like, okay, I held back. I'm like, fine, I guess but I didn't want to diminish her compliment either, because she does look great. I can't say anything about that. But it was just, it's funny how people, when we're together, she'll get compliments all the time. When we're together, and it's nice. It's nice to see that, and it's like, and I just thought about that the other day. It's like, I'll ask for compliments from her because I know we're going to go out. I hardly ever get anybody like say anything nice to me. Like, oh, when I wore that suit, did somebody notice my tie? I got a nice tie. My cousin, she's like, oh, I got a nice Gucci tie. And it was like, she's like, and it was her and her boyfriend too. Like, I like your tie. I'm like, oh, you noticed. It's because it's subtle. You wouldn't notice. It just has the emblems in a very but it went with the suit, right? Yeah. So
is it that suit you wore to that wedding? I think you posted you're like giving a speech. It was kind of like gray a little bit.
No, that was different. No, that was different. Okay. Yeah, that was a different one. No, this was a brand new one. This one you wouldn't have seen. We didn't post.
You didn't post it?
Yeah, this is more recent.
Okay, gotcha.
This one's this was it was tailor made. It's black and stuff. It was just I didn't have a like really nice black suit, so I got that anyway. But it's funny though, like when the roles are reversed, and like if I brought that up and I'm like, well, you're just seeking attention. I'm like, no, I just, again, I did a video of it. It's going to come out next, probably this time by the post. I think it'll be out this week too. I just said for women, you want to keep your men, if you want to keep them happy, like we're always told happy wife, happy life. Yeah. It'd be nice once in a while somebody say happy husband, because I think the masculinity steps in there as well. Yeah. I think people think that it's like, it's like, well, their masculination, there's a lot of that too. And sometimes there are asshole husbands out there. I get that. There are abusive husbands, but I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I'm just saying, I'm not saying you want to keep those guys, but a lot of us just want to be told,
hey, you look great.
Wouldn't it be nice? Like, listen, is it nicer coming from me or from your? I know you don't have a girlfriend now, but if your girlfriend or wife has said to you, she goes, "Oh, and you're looking sexy today," like I can say it, and you're like, "Great," what I mean? But if your wife says it, or your girlfriend says it, just holds so much more weight.
Yeah,
so much more weight.
Do you feel like you give more of that and you don't get enough back?
I can't say all the time. I find I say to her like, but I also find myself not giving as much compliments. But I think a lot of it is because I don't get any either, right? So you're like with Natalie and I, our dynamic, we've been together so long. Like sometimes I say, "Oh, you look good." I feel like I have to remind myself to say that as well. So I'm also guilty of that too. Don't get me wrong. But when you did something where like I'm saying about the suit situation, she came in, she's like, "Look great." I'm like, "I know." I'm like, "You're looking like," she looked great that night. She just got a new dress, but I wasn't fishing for compliments, right? But when she's looking good, sometimes I'll say something like along the lines, "Why do you look so good today?" Like,
it just comes out naturally. Like, damn, you look good.
Yeah, and I love my wife because I like when she wears, and I tell her all the time, like, well, you're natural pretty or something. Like, I don't like when she wears a lot of makeup and all. Like, I don't like that. And when sometimes we go to weddings and stuff, she'll dress up, she'll put too much, like not too much, so she'll have like the nighttime makeup on. It's not my jam with her, and I'm just like, and she goes, "Well, it's not for you." I'm like, I know. I'm like, I keep like when she wears that, I'm like, "You're so pretty. Why do you have to wear that much makeup?"
Yeah,
and she goes, "It's not for you," and I get that. Like, she does look pretty. Don't get me wrong. It's just not my vision of my wife. I like her natural.
Like a natural woman. Yeah. Speaking about vulnerability, I know you grew up in an Italian household. Italians typically, in my opinion, they're very macho. You know, they're very hardworking, blue collar type of dudes. Wife beaters, like this.
The t-shirt, not the actual wife beaters.
Is that t-shirt?
Make sure we put that out.
No, yeah.
Well, I thought you can't just throw that out there.
No, everybody knows it's a wife beater.
No, dude, what is it? Masculine, all that too, and wife beater. Whoa,
oh my!
What's going on here, dude?
Y'all are soft if you thought that was how a wife beater, man.
Just okay.
All right, just for clarification,
we'll say that down in quarantena. That's what we call the white beater, quarantena. Like the white,
little white thing, like chains and everything. But guys, I did not mean wife beater as
it's okay. It's okay. We're not getting canceled. It's okay.
It's a piece of clothing.
Yeah.
All right. You just heard the Flat Earth episode. Like, you might have canceled us by now, but let's get back into it, man. The way the culture is, it's very like heavy on masculine, like hyper masculinity. That's my observation. Do you agree with that? Just like the like the
I don't know. Like our family was. There's a lot of testosterone when the brothers would fight. So on my dad's side, there was 4 brothers.
Yeah.
And my nonna was a widow for like, she lived to like 95 and she was a widow for 50 years. So she grew up, so she was right in the mix of that, like just really right in there. Right. My mom's dynamic was a little bit different. There's like her and her brother. And so it's different. The men were always like arguing. I find that it was always like, the tempers are always high and everyone's always arguing. I can sense that. Yes. But there's also a lot of vulnerability too. Like my dad was very vulnerable. He allowed us. He would always tell me, hug me and kiss me and tell me I love you and stuff too. And he would also like to be hugged and held. It's like
nurturing.
Yeah. Always wonder what I was doing, how things, when I was away in university, whether the game, if I had a good game, what they say, always just trying to be like very excited for us and stuff. So he very much wore his emotions on his sleeve. And that's the one thing I would always say, like with my cousins, we talk about it too. They said, knowing your dad, they're like, we knew where we stood with your dad. Mm-hmm. There was no, if he didn't like the shirt he was wearing, he's like, why are you wearing that shirt? Mm-hmm. Makes you look fat, makes you look stupid. Or it's like he would say something to you. Mm-hmm. I don't know about too much of the compliments again, because it's always just like, if he didn't like something, he would tell you. But if he liked something, he's like, oh, I like it. It was one of those things, right? I remember one year when I got back from university, I gained some weight, and in 17, he grabbed me, he's like, you got to lose that. I said, and I did. But it was like, it was funny. It was like,
it's out of love.
Yeah, out of love. So even though there was a lot of tension stuff, I like masculine, there's a ton of love. Like our family, even now, I told my uncle the other day, I was like, yeah, listen, I love you. I just want to say thank you for all your help. It's just, it's even that like hugs and kisses and stuff too is like, it's just a lot of emotions. Mm-hmm. Italians have a lot of emotions. Mm-hmm. So to say it's hyper masculine, I would disagree with that. I just think have you noticed how much like all those movies about how much the boy loves his mom and stuff too? And it's like, it's just, she treats him so well in that sense.
I mean, I could say this too. Like if you look at like the gangster movies, like the Italian mob movies, like the way the culture is portrayed in TV and movies, it can make the assumption that says, okay, these guys are tough, right? So that's where I get that from.
Yeah.
And you as an Italian, you grew up in an Italian dad, hardworking, like all that stuff. That's why I was curious to know.
Yeah. No, he was, Very loving, my dad. Very
He's a loving guy.
Very, very loving guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and he struggled too with a lot of like with mental stuff too. We talked about that too. He had a couple of like mental breakdowns and stuff too, just very because of his emotions got to him too. Like because my dad felt so much. I think that's, but when he passed away, I never thought to myself, did my dad love me? I'm like, it was
of course
so obvious.
It's a formality.
It's a formality. Yeah. So it was, that's the sad part about losing somebody that young is that, you know, you love them so much. And not to say my dad was perfect. We know that nobody's perfect, but I just knew how much he loved us. And it was like, it's hard to lose somebody that cares about you that much. Right. And that you care for so as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Do you find like your friends, you know, you're the one who gives, you know, you reach out a lot, you have all these great things to share with people. Do you find other men around you have that similar like mindset of, I'm going to call up Dave or Jeff and say, why do you think guys struggle with giving other men love?
I've kind of forced some of the people around me to do it. Yeah. Because they said, like, look how it makes you feel. In the beginning, it's awkward.
It is very awkward.
Yeah. When I told you I loved you the first time, what'd you say?
I was startled. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I was a little shook.
There's nothing wrong with that. I get it. I get it.
But then it settles in. You're like, and, you know,
do you believe that I love you?
I do believe that. Good. And then I go back.
It's true. I do.
I go back in my quiet space. I sit down and I really absorb it. And I was like, you know, that carried me throughout the days. Like just hearing like someone's like, man, I love you.
Yeah. I love all you guys. I know that you guys can't see it. Like, Isaac does our videos. He's amazing. I love you, buddy. Yeah. You too, Alex. I love you, man. But I open up that channel to let you know that, like, I don't say that to everybody because I have the people I have connection with. Obviously, I'm not going to say it. If I said it to everybody, it loses
the effect of it.
Right?
Exactly.
But you guys have been special to me, and I want to express that. Like you've done this for me, brought my podcast to something I never would have thought. Like everything you guys do is amazing, and I don't think we say it enough. That thank you. Yeah. But it's more than thank you because it's like you guys have now become part of my life, right? So we're like family. We are family. Yeah,
we're family.
Yeah. We break bread together a lot. We had cigars.
We've had deep chats. Yeah. And I think dudes need to do more of that. You know, it's very and I find myself seeking that out too. Like, for example, you know, I was having a conversation with Al and I was just like saying, you know, sometimes I want to hear from my boys, like when we get together, like, bro, how's life going? How you building the agency up? Like, how you doing? Like bringing things from like nothing into something. And, you know, you want to have depth with men. And I think we don't have enough of that anymore. It's like, I don't want to seem like a little, like, you know, it's just.
You know what I find, especially in my position?
What's up?
When you reach out. Oh, sorry, I had to go to the last water. What I find in my position when you're reaching out, especially in the beginning, they're like, and you are trying to build a business, but they're all like, what do you want from me? Yeah. And I was like, dude, just really want to know what's going on in your life. Like, hey, listen, if you happen to have business, I'd love to take care of it. But it's not always that, right? It's always like, I used to call my cousins. I'm like, listen, I know I'm not going to get any deal done with them, but just like want to know, like, I'm like, and then when I got busier, I stopped talking, like, hey, where's my phone call? So now we meet more often and stuff too. But it was one of those things. It's like, I think men think when you're asking about their lives, like, okay, what does he want? And I think we've been jaded that way too, because like Natalie's friends will call her up just to shoot the shit. Like, but we don't always do that.
We don't,
you know, and I sometimes get so busy too. One of my good friends and stuff too, Steve, he'll call me and it's like, dude, I'm like, he goes, I know you're stressed. I know you're busy when you're not calling, just saying how things are going. So instead we'll send each other memes and all that kind of stuff too, and just joking around. But I think we're guilty of that too. And it's like, I think that's mostly why men don't do that. It's just like, we just innately, it's like, I'm busy taking care of this. What do you want?
Like, get to the point.
Yeah. Like, listen, it only needs to be a couple conversations. Like, well, then people ask me, like, why don't you do like play more golf or all that kind of? I'm like, I'm always busy nurturing, doing all this other stuff too. I don't have a lot of time to just spend 4 or 5 hours 5 times a week golfing. And like, well, business, like, you can get some business golfing. I'm like, sometimes life isn't about business. I want to know how
you're doing.
How's it doing, right?
Yeah. It is very challenging. And I think even as young guys, there's a certain age you get to, like, where you become more closed off And you think by showing those other sides of your life, it's just like, do you want me to help you? Do you want me? It's like, yo, it's kind of like, yo, you're a guy. You're supposed to have your shit together. You're supposed to have your things in order. But sometimes you just need to vent, you know? Honestly, like, I'm a very happy guy. I'm very happy, very blessed. Sometimes I just need to like chat. You know what I'm saying? Just don't even say anything back to me. Just, and I'm sure you feel the same way too.
That's why I felt bad about yesterday. You were calling. I was in the middle of Zooms. I couldn't answer you because we'll shoot the shit. We actually didn't prep for these calls, and we didn't have a chance to talk. But I'm like, yeah, we'll get it done today. It's but I feel bad sometimes when you're calling. I was joking. I'm like, dude, just text me if you're available. Like, I guess yesterday was one of those days,
especially after a long weekend.
I didn't have a chance to breathe yesterday. Yeah. It was literally one of those days. It was like, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, holy, even today, now I have a whole bunch of stuff I have to do after the podcast and stuff. But yeah, after a long weekend, it was insane. But I felt bad. I always feel bad when I can't call people back. So I try to make sure I call people back and make sure they see how they're doing and everything's okay.
Yeah. Speaking of dudes, man, what kind of impact has your men's group had on you? Because I know you have like that tight circle of guys where after the death of your friend happened, you all came together and you're now like, hey, let's talk. Let's actually share with each other. Like, what kind of? Oh no,
there's many different groups we tried to do that.
Groups, right?
So yeah, so the one where our friend that committed suicide was in the hockey team, and we there's still a bunch of us. We'll talk about it. Like, there's a few of us. Like, we still, like my buddy Josh, we were talking when we were in Nashville. But the rest of us, like, not so much. We don't talk to each other because I'm not in the States, so I don't know if they've talked to each other. But my group of, like, you know, my cousins and stuff too, and friends that we get together here, like, that has changed a lot. Even with one of them just had a baby, like another guy's starting a new career and all that. Actually, a few of them started to. So I think there's been a positive aspect because we're encouraging each other, and I think they're opening up avenues which maybe they never thought of before. I think so it's because they'll come to us with a bright idea, whereas in the past people are like, don't do that. You know, we talked to Cynthia where she was told not to become a realtor, and you know, because of a safe job and all that stuff too. We're the opposite. We're like, yeah, what do you need from us? You know, let's do this. Encouraging each other.
What's your advice to those men who want to showcase that vulnerability? They want to open up to, let's say, their spouse and say how they feel, but at the same time they struggle with feeling emasculated a little bit.
Yeah. Well, come by it honestly. Yeah, honestly.
Come in good faith.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's if it's your partner, for God's sakes, talk to that person first if you don't have that conversation, you know, and be vulnerable with them sometimes. If you find that you can't, then pick somebody you know who's that you just need to vent with, go for a couple of beers and just say, hey, listen, I need to talk, and just let it out. I have a good friend of mine. He's going through some struggles right now. And hopefully this week we've had a few beers and stuff too. We talked about it and just like, what's your next
steps? He comes to and chilling in the backyard, and you guys have like, or do you guys just go out?
Oh, yeah. We'll have a coffee here. We'll have it off. Like, we've had a couple coffees and just said, and he's struggling right now. He's struggling financially. He's struggling with this relationship. And I know what I did is anytime I said, anything you need from me, I'm here. And he's one of my boys, and I do love him, and he knows I love him. And I just, you know, maybe tell somebody, like, if you care for somebody, like, wait, don't be afraid to say, hey, man, love you. Anytime you need anything else, I might have to bounce some ideas off you. Does that work? Somebody like, yeah, man, no, don't do that. But you say that enough times, it's like, my buddy Josh was like that too. Like, when you're in university, like, I love the guy. I absolutely love him. He's like
a brody, yeah.
And I only see him, like, I hadn't seen him during the pandemic for like 3 years. We saw each other. We went to our buddy Luke. I love Luke too, but we went to Luke's wedding in Madison, and then we didn't. So that was February 2020. We just saw him recently. So it was 3 years, right? But it's like no time passes, right? But I remember we used to get drunk and hang out, and I say, hey, buddy, I love you. You know what I mean? Like, he's the only person that probably ever said that to back in university. I didn't say that to a lot of people. He goes, what do you mean? I'm like, you know, no homo, none of that kind of stuff too. We just like, listen, you know, you're like my bro. But he wasn't used to people saying that to him. So, but now it's like our conversations are much different. Every time I won't leave the call, like, especially when I moved away, I don't leave the conversation. I'm not getting off the phone till you tell you love me. And I know you do. You know, I kind of push him because we're buddies, you know, we're able to do that. And now he says it. So, and it's, I think I helped, you know, I don't know, maybe I helped him to open that, but he lets me hug him in public and stuff too. You know, like,
you never know, man. And he's like, now he's going to pay it forward now, right? Like,
Possibly.
You never know how much of a catalyst you are for someone else.
Look, we talk about that too. And it's like, he's got a little boy now.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay to tell your friends you love him. Like, and I see him with his son. It melts my heart. You know, it's a beautiful thing. Oh, he's guy. Like so in love. And I think it's, I don't know if I had help with that, telling people like showing it's okay to show emotion, but I could see how much, I don't know if he had that. He had like, you know, growing up, I just don't know. You just don't know, but I can see
the impact
that he's going to have on his son in a positive way. As long as he keeps that up, it'll be, I think his son's going to do very, very well for himself in the sense that he'll know he's loved.
Are there more things that you want to do to bring your friends closer? Like maybe spending time, like doing activities? Because I know you have your cigar nights and everything, but do you feel like you need to do more of those to understanding how men move?
No, I wouldn't say that. I think those are special when I do them because people know they're special.
They're special.
Yeah.
You don't know.
And I also have a family, which I'm trying to, you know, it's already hard in real estate to spend a lot of time with your family. We're trying to make equality and do that. So if I spend too much time with my boys, I'm neglecting the kids in home. And they're a vulnerable age, and I'm like, that's my priority. You know, my wife is number one, my kids are number two, and then you got your mom and your brothers as like, you know, your third. Like that's the hierarchy, how it goes. You have to nurture your relationship with your spouse. There's no blood ties to that too. That's why the divorce rate is so high. You have to spend time with your wife and know her, and your kids. Although it should be number two in the sense, the reason why we say number two is because they will always be tied with you with your blood. Let's be honest. There's always have time. Your wife is not tied to you in any sense of the imagination, your spouse. So the relationship should always be blossoming and working on it and making it just that's the way it is. If I find that if I'm doing too much for the business and family and all this stuff too, I feel it at home. So no, I think we're at a good balance trying to figure that out too. Sometimes I wish I could get my headspace out of work and then try to have more of those fun nights to a certain point. But no, I wouldn't say I'm doing, I need to do more. I wouldn't say that. Because I think most people know if they need to talk to me, I'm here too. And then I would stop everything and say, and my wife understands that too. I don't, in the beginning when I would go with my cousins and stuff, she was like, why do you guys do that? Like, she just thought we were just messing around and something. Like, no, we talk about aspirations. We talk, it's a, like, and because I didn't explain what we were doing, because I didn't know in the beginning what it was. And it just kind of turned into something special to us. I can't do that with everybody because again, it diminishes. And then you also get drained of energy too. Like there's only so much you can, of yourself, of your soul, you can pour it. Oh, there's only so much you can give. Sometimes you need to fill it up or just need some time for it to fill on its own.
Yeah. There's in the Bible, there's actually, in our men's Bible study that we do every Monday, there's one group we did. It's like feeling emotionally drained, right? There's a lot of things that drain us, right? Which neglect us from the things that we love. Like, you know, one thing is just like focusing on God and everything like that. But what are things that are emotionally taken away from you? What are things that are draining you? And what are those? And guys had different things. They were like chasing money, chasing success, women, right? Some guys were like, hey, like, you know, looking at bad things on the internet, right? So there's a lot of things that take away from you. And, you know, you find these different things to mask how you really feel, like by adding materialistic stuff, the validation of women or something like that. So there's so many things, but this idea of vulnerability, I think it's getting better now, 2023. Like we're more accepting of that. And I think a lot more people are welcoming that conversation. But I think the indoctrination of men over centuries and centuries and the images you're supposed to see, yes, you can still be that macho guy, whatever, but you should have like the confidence and the self-esteem in yourself to understand, if I feel like this right now and I feel like this today, it doesn't take away from who I am in my masculine nature, the same way you said in the beginning when we started chatting. So it's going to take some time, and it's going to take our generation, young guys like me too, the ones when we are raising sons and daughters and everything.
Who said this guy was young?
Right? You see, I'm spitting fire right now and you're just getting it.
No, it's true. It's true.
You know what I'm saying?
I think there definitely needs to be a shift. I know as we're wrapping up here too, we'll leave them with this, but don't feel as if you can't express your emotions. I think that's just a recipe for disaster. It'll play out some other way and it'll be a lot more violent or deadly. You know, that's what I think happened a lot. Again, you see where people suicide and they live in their own head.
Absolutely.
But I also think you don't have to show everything to everybody all the time.
Yeah.
So you have to guard yourself. So that's also one thing we have to say there too. Like, you know, I'm an open book on stuff too, but I'm also take a lot of shit. And I take that and I'm able to do that. But again, even still, no one ever knows all of me. Nobody does.
No, even Nat.
No, even Nat.
Yeah.
Nat knows most of it, but there's some shit that happens that she doesn't know in my mind, or things you think, or things like, you know, things of the past. Nobody knows you 100% except you. And that's okay too.
Yeah. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the DC Talks podcast. I've been your co-host of the show, Agent 00 Onosende. My main man, David Chinelli. Any parting words for your fans and audience?
I love you, bud.
I love you too, man.
And I appreciate all you've done for me.
Likewise.
Bye.
All right. Amazing. See you next week, everybody. Ciao.